Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy, CIZZY, you dig, live action, Kansas City, Missouri, and we are here at PlexPod in the Crossroads, Kansas City, Missouri. And I know I've been gone for a while. I know the podcast has been missing. It's been in the dark. It's been in the light. It's been in the dark again. And we're just back, man. Needed to take some time off, figure out some new content to put out there, and I'm happy to present to you the new episode today, right now, in this moment. As you can see, we're rocking our Culture Talks tees, so make sure you go to VOV Apparel on Instagram at VOV Apparel and DM us if you're looking for some t-shirts. Holla at your boy. But as you can see, we have a guest here today, and his name is...
My name is Milad.
Boom. His name is Milad. So this is a great friend of mine since we were kids, like since young bucks, since young bulls, you dig around me. And we're going to do something a little bit different today. So what I did is I reached out to some friends and I told them, hey, I'm going to try something a little bit different on my podcast. And what I want to do is I want you to come up with 15 questions around business, life, health, any type of questions, and then things that you might just be interested in asking me. And let's just record an episode. Let's just get some content out there. I thought this was the best way to jump on the show and get some content back out there into the world instead of trying to just think, oh, what can I do? And when you do that too much, you get lost in the sauce and you never take action. So I wanted to make sure we got back to it. We got back to it doing something fun. We got back to it doing something with people that I really love and care about. So yeah, that's the update. And with that being said, welcome to the show. And so from here, basically, Milad, I asked you to write down some questions, write down some topics you wanted to talk about, and we're just going to free flow. So this isn't all about Collis, this isn't all about Milad, we're just sharing, you know what I'm saying? We're just sharing. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend, and we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, so Collis, we've been friends since birth, really. Our families kind of knew each other. We've known each other our entire lives, really. So, with that being said, our relationship is pretty unique in that way, and I think even though we may not be in constant contact or attached at the hip, we do go in phases where we are in each other's lives and out of each other's lives. But as that pendulum swings, we do come back around to each other, which is awesome. So I'm so glad to be in your life at this period in time. I'm glad that you're back in Kansas City. And this is really awesome, so thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So with that being said, Collis, I think you have a very interesting background, an interesting upbringing, both culturally and really just your circumstances. So I'd like to get a little background about that. I think I've listened to the pod several times. I haven't really found an episode where you kind of talk about you and what your background is and kind of who you are as a person. So kind of dive into it. Tell us a little about your family, some of your interests, and kind of some of your hobbies.
Absolutely. So my name is obviously Collis Stutzer. Let's start there. But yeah, man, I'm blessed to be raised in a really large family. I come from a mother who's from Tanzania, from East Africa. She's born in Arusha, which is a city in the northern territory of Tanzania, close to Mount Kilimanjaro in the same region. So for people who aren't familiar with Tanzania, who aren't familiar with Africa, I'm sure you're familiar with Mount Kilimanjaro. So just think about that place, and that's where my mother's from. My father's actually from Kansas City. He grew up in the northeast neighborhood from the 40s until he left and moved to Africa in like the 1970s. And again, big family. I'm the child of technically 9 kids, but eight living. And I'm the baby. I'm the largest. I'm the tallest. I'm the smartest. I'm just kidding. But yeah, man, the benefits really for me of growing up in a family so big is, although it could get annoying sometimes, feeling like you have multiple parents, not just the set of 2, you actually have a set of 10 parents. It was nice to be able to see everybody's life and how they progressed through it, how they went through their schooling, through their education, how they approached relationships, how they approached money and finances, how they approached religion and spirituality. And I really got to take the pieces that I identified with and place them in life, pair them with my experiences, and then build a life from there. So if one sibling did something I didn't like, I knew I didn't want to do that when I got older. If one sibling did something that I liked but it didn't work out for them, I was like, okay, maybe that's not a route I want to go. If one sibling is doing something really successful but like I don't really care, like I'm not feeling identified with that, I know I'm not trying to do that. So it was able to give me early insight from like 9, 10 years old on, the things I didn't want to do, the moral foundation I wanted to have, the values I had, and the opportunities that were out there in the world for me to do if I so chose to. So I mean, that's a smooth conclusion of like, maybe some things I appreciate about my family, and the largeness of my family, and yeah, just some simple breakdowns of where I come from.
Definitely. I think that's probably one of your strengths, right? Like being able to have a big family and being able to have all those people to learn from. Because, I think the average household, and at least for our generation, was like 2.5, maybe 3
Right.
kids in the household. So would you say that that's an advantage that you have, or maybe is that a disadvantage in a lot of ways?
I think it's really just purely an advantage. The only way you could look at it as a disadvantage, in my opinion, is just if you get caught up in your selfishness or your ego, or maybe your negative emotions towards certain family members at certain points in your life, right? And you can say, oh, it was so tough, it was so this, but the reality is, I'm the baby. Typically the babies get the best of both worlds. I'm not saying all of my siblings spoiled me, but you get spoiled. You're the baby, you know what I'm saying? Your birthdays are funner, they really like cherish, shower you with energy because you're the baby, the last born, A lot of them got to raise me, not just my parents, but also, my brother Saloom and my sister Edie, and, everyone got to have a hand in the rearing of the child, of raising me, So, I really only see advantages. As much as I'm not as close as I desire to be with as many family members, and maybe I don't identify with, what they do for a career or whatever, but the advantage is I technically just have 7 mentors. I have 7 mentors for different versions of life, Like if I want mentorship on, some creative side of things, or how you approach the creative world, how you build friendships in the creative world, I'll go talk to my brother who's an artist. If I want some mentorship on studying and how to take notes in school because I'm really struggling with some course I'm taking, I'll go talk to my doctor sister or my nurse sister who were super good in school and knew how to take notes and were avid studiers, and I can ask them for insight. If I want insight on how to treat people and how to practice leadership qualities and lead a group of people, I'll go talk to my brother who's Saloom, who is the director of facilities at something and has always been leading people, whether it was on the football field in college or whether it was in as a coach for the football teams in college, or whether it was the positions he's been holding, leading massive teams in the school districts for the past 10 years. So, anybody I need any form of advice from, I always have family to go to first, and then I can branch out. So it's always been an advantage to me. Like, of course, we all have things to complain about when it comes to family, duh. You have things to complain about, the listeners have people that they struggle with in the family, but at the end of the day, I know they all love me, I know I love them, and I know it's going to be a benefit to have. It's been a benefit, and it will be a continued benefit as I grow older and have kids. Now they have uncles and aunties and cousins. Family's everything, man. Family's everything.
Yeah, definitely. Family is everything. So in terms of, I guess maybe one of the things you kind of talked there is like they're all kind of a mentor in one way or another. So that's kind of one part of my question. Do you have mentors outside your family? And then the other part of that is I kind of wanted to see and hear your thoughts on this. Like, do you ever feel like you're being pulled in different directions? Do you ever feel like, maybe there's too much involvement?
Absolutely, yeah. So to the first question, I have something that I call, and I'm not acting like I made this up, but I heard it from myself first, so that's why I say it. I have something called virtual mentorships or virtual mentors, and all that means is, being 24 years old, being a millennial, we had the advantage of growing up in a time where technology was advancing at such a rapid rate, and still is, that we have so much opportunities when it comes to the internet, when it comes to all these social platforms, when it comes to access. Like, a lot of time, there was so many gatekeepers in business and music and PR and all types of industries. There were so many gatekeepers, but the internet, social media, open those doors, unlock those doors, and we don't really need, somebody to let us in to get contact to somebody. So, growing up with Facebook, growing up with YouTube, growing up with MySpace, growing up with Twitter as I got into high school, and Instagram getting into high school, and Snapchat, all these platforms provided me opportunities to connect with people all across the world, from Dubai to New York City to freaking South Asia, like people from everywhere. And if I find their content interesting, I have the opportunity and the access to reach out to them, to contact them directly. And if I don't want to contact them, I can just consume their content. So when we speak of, virtual mentors, just to name a few, I think the first virtual mentor I ever had who really inspired me and provided me with a solid framework of mindset around how to live life and how to overcome adversity and overcoming, anxiety or different negative feelings, quote unquote, is Eric Thomas. So E.T. the hip hop preacher, some of you guys may know who that is, some of you guys may not. But he's a motivational speaker, public speaker, he's an author, and of course has courses and stuff like that. But he started out just making YouTube videos in his garage, and that's where I started watching him. And he would just talk about certain topics, and it really helped me build a strong foundation around how to approach, really at the end of the day, adversity, how to approach adversity and how to think about it in a different way. And then also just providing that reality check when you think that you want something but you're not doing the work for it. And then you hear this video and he's like, stop talking about you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, but you sitting right here on YouTube watching me. And it's like, oh shit, you're right. This is exactly what I've been doing for 6 hours actually. And so, that was important for me, for 12 to like 17 years old, I was consuming his content. So not in like a selfish or a braggadocious way. I think it just really provided me an opportunity, in reading his books and his articles, really provided me a different mindset that my peers didn't have. So when some violence would happen towards our friends, or when some adversity in our grades, or being kicked off the football team, or losing in a game, or struggling with money, or whatever it is, when these things would come around, I would have a framework, like a foundation to choose how I'm going to react to things, whereas other people just went into disorder, and I saw it every day, so it's really a benefit. And then, Gary Vee, after Eric Thomas, definitely was my next one. I found him maybe like junior year of high school. Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, and then over the past few years, I've found people who aren't as big. Ani Hustles, who's growing right now. I've had him on the podcast actually, I think about 2 episodes ago. And then of course there's just a whole lot of other people on Instagram and Twitter that I admire, and not to like extend this answer even longer, but just to say, people really need to, and I found it very important for myself, to curate who they follow. You need to curate who you follow. Right before we shot this episode, we were at home watching a YouTube video. Gentleman that we admire for his business, smarts and stuff, was naming people on Twitter he thought were important to follow or that he valued. As soon as he said the name, you paused it, you went and followed that person, because you're curating who you follow. So the information that you're consuming in moments of consumption are positive, are informative, and help you progress, just as long as you take action on them, of course. But what happens is people don't curate. They just follow whoever, whenever, entertainers, this, that, and they're not getting any benefit from it except for entertainment. And entertainment is cool, but it's not everything, and it's not going to get you that far. So I just think it was important to mention that. Like, you gotta curate who you follow, and I've always done that in weird ways too. Like having 4 Instagrams, like the podcast Instagram, this Instagram that you guys are going to see this content on, I only follow business people, I only follow entrepreneurs that I'm really inspired by. On Twitter, I only follow like marketing and branding people, and then a few people who are like just philosophers and talk about different things. And then obviously friends, but I mute their pages so I don't consume their content. Yes, I mute you. Feel disrespected, but it's not disrespect, it's just about curating the content that you're going to consume every day. I got the fitness page because I'm also a personal trainer, so I only follow trainers that I admire that provide information that I find valuable. I have my personal page, and that's where I follow my friends, so I know I'm going to be on there if I'm going to just catch up on people's lives. So I think it's just very important to curate. And I know that's a super long answer. And then as for as for that same thing, that does pull you in a lot of different directions, you know? Going to your second question about being pulled in different directions. Family members, all of them do something different, all of them live life differently, all of them have different expectations and different opinions of what success, happiness, and a good life is. So when they're all trying to tell you something, this and that and this and that, it's like either you get pulled so many different ways or you just shut them all down. And that's what I decided to do. It's like, just like, I'll listen to you, but I'm like okay, thank you. And then I just keep it pushing, you know what I'm saying? Because when you're trying to consider, oh, this person and this person and this person, especially if it's unsolicited, it's just like, it's very challenging. You get pulled in so many different directions because you do want to satisfy your family members, but you got to remember that it's your life too. And if you're living your life for another person, you ain't gonna be happy at the end of the day, you know?
Absolutely.
I could tell you a lot of careers that would have made some of my siblings really happy that I would have been depressed doing. I could tell you a lot of routes that siblings, mentors told me that I could go, but I didn't particularly want to go that way, and so I chose not to. So you have to be careful with, you know, how much you consume, who you listen to, because you really will get pulled a lot of different ways, and I have all my life. I'm 24 now, and I'm trying to really just dig down into the exact niche category of people I want to listen to and focus on that and develop skills around that and develop, you know, the ability to master that area in some way, or these multitudes of areas of marketing. Like, we're both on the same page. You're trying to do the same thing, marketing, email marketing. I'm trying to get good at copywriting. I'm trying to get good at sales, because I know these things will all fit into building businesses, building my podcast, building my t-shirt company, building other companies, you know what I'm saying? So it can definitely pull you a lot of different ways, get frustrating, but just gotta curate and focus.
I think that's really important. You know, the saying goes, you are what you eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are the content that you consume. So
Exactly.
just like you plan out your health, you also have to plan out your mental health as well. You know, all of those negative emotions and things.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be mindful of what you're consuming.
Absolutely.
So in terms of the podcast, do you have any goals for the podcast? Is there anything that listeners can do to help, you know, get you to those goals?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing, you know, people like to say numbers don't matter, but when it comes to like podcasting, I don't pay too much attention to the numbers of followers and stuff like that, and I agree with that in a certain sense. I agree with that because you want to have a community that's actually engaged. You want to have a community that actually listens and applies the information, or really truly feels inspired by what you say, not just listening because they feel forced to listen, or just press play but don't actually listen to it. They just press play because they follow you and they want to act like they support, or maybe they just really did want to come look but they really only took 10 seconds to look, you know what I'm saying? You really want engaged followers, engaged listeners. You want a community, an actual community. And if that's 500 people and 500 followers and 500 subscribers, God bless, I'm with that. But I also understand that if I can have an even larger quote-unquote audience, or access to audiences, that the ability to build a larger community is there. So if nobody shares my content, I'm going to be stuck in the circle of the 400 people I know. If nobody likes my comment and leaves reviews on Apple Podcasts, then Apple's going to keep me in the same place that I am on the 100 or the 300th podcast or whatever. There's millions of podcasts. There's millions of podcasts, but that doesn't mean that people don't consume more than one podcast. I'm a fan of 3 podcasts, a committed listener to 3 to 4 podcasts. So a lot of times you could get like overwhelmed, like there's so many podcasts, there's not room for me. No, you just gotta be better. You gotta build your brand awareness, or the awareness to your brand, company, whatever. And you have to create an engaged community, and you gotta do that by providing consistent quality content. And so that's my responsibility. The responsibility of my listeners is to take action on the information that is provided in the episodes, or be inspired and to take action in their own way. You know, we may not be giving always tactical or exact advice, like you need to do this for this, but we may say something that inspires you to think a little bit different about something else. So for you to take that and apply it in your own way. And then number 2, if you find it valuable, to share with other people. And the reason you do that is, first off, hell yeah, support your boy. But second off, because what's the point of learning or gaining a skill or enjoying something or finding something inspirational or finding joy or anything positive if you're not sharing it? Like, that's selfish. It really is selfish, you know? For me to listen to a podcast or read a article that I know you'd find interesting and I know it was helpful to me and I don't send it to you, that's selfish. So for me, listeners, share the podcast, leave a review, leave a 5-star review if you think it's 5 stars. Keep it a buck too. If you think it's 1 star, leave a 1 star, and then leave some advice on what you think I could do better. And then, yeah, man, just share the content, man. At the end of the day, I just want a larger audience so I can reach more people. And from there, there's so many things you can do.
Definitely, definitely. So maybe one of the things, and I think you would probably agree with this, is probably anybody that has someone that they think might be good on the pod, to definitely send a recommendation.
Yes, definitely do that. You know, you can read the description of the podcast and know what it's all about. So keep that in mind when you're sending references. But yeah, man, like if you think you'll be a great add to the episode yourself, please reach out. If you think that someone, your friend, would be a great add to the episode, great, reach out. But the goal of this podcast is to provide value to a community that is trying to grow, that's trying to build a strong foundation, you know what I'm saying? So I really try to focus on minority creatives and entrepreneurs, because people in minority communities don't get to see that in real life. They don't get to see big business owners, entrepreneurs. They don't see that on TV. They don't see what's the new show, or it's not new, but Billions or something like that, I think his name is. They don't see an all-black cast on Billions. They don't see a all-black cast on Grey's Anatomy with doctors, you know what I'm saying? They don't see that. So my goal is to bring people, who we don't see in these certain careers onto the show, to inspire young people, to inspire people, and let them know you can do that too, You're not supposed to. J. Cole says in one song, it's like, I think it's J. Cole, they're like, oh, damn Cole, you so tall, do you play basketball? He's like, no bitch, I'm a doctor, you know what I'm saying? And he did play basketball and he's not a doctor, but the point is, I'm also capable of doing everything else. And maybe your intention is not to say that I can't do that, but that's what it feels like when you don't see anybody that looks like you, when you don't see anybody that comes from your community doing these things, then it's hard to think you can go that route. So I try to bring people on that can share some value, share some information on how they made it to where they're at, share some information about their creative journey, to let people know you can be a photographer, you can be a tech guy, you can be a coder, and you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a doctor, you can be a businessman at Goldman Sachs, even if you come from a community that you never see that happening. So.
Because representation matters.
Yeah, representation matters, man. That's what the brand's all about. The culture talks, voices of value. Your voice is valuable too.
Definitely. So in terms of the pod, what are some of your biggest learnings from being a host?
It's hard to listen. It's hard to shut up for me. It's hard to shut up.
I'm having a hard time right now.
So I mean, the main thing, I think the number one thing it taught me is how to listen. Really just be quiet, take things in, let it soak in, reflect on it, and that's the number one thing, a skill that it's helped me develop. In terms of some other things, man, everybody's story is so similar but so different. We've talked about this before, this fake word called Sonder, the realization that every passerby is living a life that is as complex and as vivid as your own, with its own ups and downs and blah blah blah, right? So everybody I've interviewed, they all on the episode and off the episode, just share some crazy stories of challenges they went through when they were growing up and how they overcame them and what they did to overcome them. And you see so many similarities across people from all different types of cultures. Yes, there's a focus on the black community on this show, but I've also had Persians on, I've had Latin Americans on, I've had Islanders on, you know what I'm saying? So I've had South Asians on. So there's similarities across all these stories, and it just shows you how close we are, really. No matter what color of skin, no matter what part of the country we grew up in, we all facing pretty similar challenges. and we all are using very similar ways to get out of those situations. Books, podcasts, networking, like going to mentor, or the other option, that working hard, leveraging our education to get an opportunity to do something else, to get into this big position, which can then help me build my entrepreneurial lifestyle. It's like there's always like 2 to 3 similar routes that everybody went, no matter if they're from Toronto, from Kolkata, India, from Tanzania, I had a brother from, I think his family's from Trinidad and Tobago's, and then like no matter where these people are coming from, like they all kind of went those 2 or 3 routes, all have had family issues, all, you know what I'm saying? So we all so similar, and it just made me realize that we're all intertwined and connected in some way. So
Yeah, how similar that human experience is,
exactly.
no matter what your background is.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's probably one of your biggest learnings. So what are some of the challenges in terms of being a host? Is it keeping consumers engaged? Is it keeping in contact with past guests, or is it getting new guests? What are some of the challenges that you're currently facing with the pod?
I think all of those except the last one. It's not too hard to get guests, but it is hard to get quality guests. And I mean that with the utmost respect. I've had great conversations across a lot of people, but there's definitely a difference between somebody who knows how to communicate effectively and get their point across, and share their story in a way that can provide insight and value to other people, versus somebody who knows how to just talk about themselves.
Getting true storytellers.
Yeah, getting true storytellers is actually challenging, but that's a skill, man. And I don't expect everybody to be a perfect storyteller, and that's why I still enjoy some of these interviews. I still love meeting these people, but that is a challenge, though. And you have to be aware, because true storytellers are not only going to be the individuals who provide the most value, which is the goal of the podcast, but they're also going to be the individuals that keep listeners engaged. And so if I want the podcast to grow and I want to provide value, my best option is to get people that I find inspirational, dope, and awesome, that are also good storytellers. And that is challenging. Now, people love to talk, so it's not hard to get people on the podcast. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, the virtual world provides you so much access to people you thought you'd never have access to. So it's really just about being confident and reaching out to people, and being consistent, As for number 2 and number 1, which I don't remember exactly what you said, but one of the things what'd you ask? Because there was 2 things and you literally said exactly my struggles. And
yeah, so keeping listeners engaged, keeping up with hosts,
yes.
keeping them engaged
Okay,
with the pod
so,
as well.
and then there was one more.
I'm sorry, not hosts, guests.
Yeah.
The last one was getting guests on the pod.
Got you. So keeping up with past guests is also a challenge too, but I try my very best to. So, I always try to get their emails and their contact before we leave, and I try to establish a relationship after the fact too, because, I don't want people to just think that I got them on the show just for them to give me something and then it's over. I do want to build a relationship. I do want to be friends with them, but when you're like 76, 77 people in, it's kind of hard to keep in contact with everybody, and everybody's busy too, so you might text this person and they may not be able to get back to you that day, and then you're like, okay, cool, but then you forget, then 77 other people you have to get in contact with too, or try to keep up with. So it's definitely a challenge, but I think at the end of the day, if I was to see any of my guests in person or run into them at the LAX or run into them at KCI, that there would still be some love there, and we know each other and we can communicate, and it was still a relationship that was created. It's challenging to foster it, but still a relationship that was created. So either way, yeah, those are some of the challenges that I've had during the times building this podcast.
Definitely. So I think I'm going to kind of segue from the podcast to some more business-related questions. But just to kind of note this, I don't know what the exact number was. I think it's like less than 20 podcast episodes.
Mm-hmm.
If you make it past 20 episodes, you're like in the top 1% of podcasts.
Yeah, you had sent that to me. Yeah.
So, I just want to let you know, let people know that's that's inspiring to me personally, and just to anyone that wants to start a podcast. The barrier to get into that that threshold where like you blast it out just 99%, it's very low. So, don't think about it in terms of the numbers. What you're gonna hit a certain point where it's all gonna go viral, and everything else is gonna backtrack, and people are gonna be listening from day one all the way up to that point.
Yeah, which I think is funny because that you mentioned that, because also Gary Vee, there's a video. I actually posted it on the Culture Talks page maybe about a year back. I might have it in my archive somewhere, but he was just saying, like, the issue with a lot of content creators, and he was just using podcasters as an example, is that they'll go to episode like 270 and they'll be like, I still haven't blown yet, and they'll quit. When at 276 was going to be the time that it went viral, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, the goal is not to go viral, but the goal is to stay consistent, and your consistency will pay off in the long run. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's super important to just keep doing it, and that's another reason why I decided to kind of switch up the vibe for the next 5 episodes. Is because I was like, all right, who do I want to interview next? Who's it gonna be? Like, who is the right fit? Who is the right person to have on the show? And I think that got me so riled up and so confused so often that about who I wanted to choose, that I was just, it's been 2 months, And then content, I was like, man, and to be transparent, with the listeners, I don't like the way I post my content. I haven't been a fan of it, but still don't have the financial means, particularly, to put a lot of funds into the content creation in terms of the visual, making it super dope and making it look good and having all these things, right? I don't have the bread or the consistency to pay a subscription every month for a certain thing. I don't particularly have the bread to pay for Adobe Premiere. I don't have the bread to pay an outsource right now. So I was super caught up in that too. And if you go look at my last 3 posts on my Culture Talks page, you'll see that I paid somebody to do the content, and I loved it. I was like, this is so fire. And my guest was like, yo, that was so fire. And I'm like, okay, I want to keep doing this. But I was like, shit, I don't have $250 to pay per episode on Friday, every Friday. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I can't do that. So it's so I was trying to figure out other ways around it. And I was like, man, this is just taking 2 months and I haven't released something. People are going to forget about the Culture Talks. I was like, fuck that. We better do something. So I hit you up. I was like, bro, let's do this. And we just gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And just post the content whenever you can scale, but don't stop because you can't scale.
Absolutely.
Let's just put it that way. to summarize what I was trying to say.
So in terms of, so outside of the pod, there's obviously a lot of interest in business. In, the t-shirt brand, you got the podcast that's kind of associated with that. What are some of the other parts of business or some of your favorite industries that kind of appeal to you and kind of brought you into the business world?
Yeah, I think the number one thing I like is probably real estate. Real estate investing, just the real estate business. There's just so many awesome ways to innovate. There's so much, we were talking about this earlier today, there's so many ways to innovate, whether it's creating a software, Redfin, like a fucking Zillow, creating, there's so much more room for even more of those platforms or those softwares to be created that can help out the industry. And then in terms of the actual act of investing and making money off of real estate, there's so many creative ways to get involved. There's so many creative ways to raise money. There's so many creative ways to value add to a property. And you can take those same ideas and those same creative juices and apply them to a marketing agency. You can apply them to a podcast. Just being creative in the way that you can add value onto whatever product, service that you're selling. And I think just real estate is so dope. There's so much room for growth. There's so much, obviously, benefits and upside when it comes to finance, wealth creation. So that's one thing. I really love I'm really starting to get into what you're into. So just like marketing, email marketing, copywriting, these skills that you can use to serve people, but then also selling courses from the skill that you like learn. So the same way we're going to learn how to do like some of these skills, or are learning how to use the skills, there's more room to create more courses in the same world, and then just create systems around skills. That's a great way to say it. Creating systems around skills and then monetizing it is just super dope. But you can do that in so many different ways. Again, going back to real estate, I know people in real estate who don't have any property, who don't invest in any property. I'm not saying this is smart, but I'm just saying they don't invest in any property. They don't own any software. They don't have any apps. All they do is they're really skilled at finding good deals. They know the numbers. They're really good at running the numbers. They're really good at research. They have a community, they have a network that reaches out to them, lets them know about good deals, and all they do is plug and play with investors. And they get paid good. Or consultation fees, like, here, this is what I would do with this property, but you gotta pay me $500. You know, we've been playing the cash flow game. That's real life. You know, hey, I'll consult with you for $1,000. So I find the consulting world really interesting as well. I think it would be dope to figure out how to create a system around a consulting company, like where you can pull yourself out of it. So you can build your consulting company by consulting for people, but figuring out a way to build a system around training other consultants who then do, you know, just building like your own personal Deloitte, but like a small version. So I mean, really, I just like business. It's kind of hard to categorize what I'm a fan of, because every day I'm reading something new and I get pulled left and right, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
There's just so much dope shit. There's so many ways to win. There's so much fun and creativeness and competitiveness with yourself, and challenging yourself to be creatively like gangster. And I think it's fun. So really, I like just business, period. You know, anytime I'm driving down the street and I see a vehicle with a business on the side of it, and I see it more than once, immediately I go Google it, try to find their financials, try to find how they started, try to find their business model. I just like business. So
I think there's a lot to like about business too,
Hell yeah.
especially. Yeah. So what? Was there a point? Was there an epiphany? Was there a specific moment where it was like, all right, business is for me, or were you know, was that shift kind of more gradual? Was it just kind of like, I tried everything else and business is like, it just drew you in?
yeah. So I know when I first got interested in business, when I was like 8, 9, 10, I don't remember what the name of the show was, to be completely honest, but there was a show I was watching where the setting, like the main setting of the show, was in a large high-rise business office in New York City. I was like, that shit gangster. I was like, oh, the office view, corner view, the city, wearing a suit. Like, I don't like the suit idea anymore. I kind of like rocking my own shit and rocking whatever. But actually, that's cap. I do like suits. I do like suits. I won't purchase in case I got the bread, but I do like suits and looking professional. So I always thought that was fly, having your own desk, coming in, like being a leader, like this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna blah blah blah. And the shows, it just looked awesome. It was cool to me, you know. And I think this was this is not, I think it is definitely pre entrepreneurship becoming cool. I think entrepreneurship started becoming cool like early 2000s maybe, but it didn't become cool till that shit was on social, until like people were able to put the image of entrepreneurship. They were able to brand entrepreneurship is what they were able to do, and whether they were true entrepreneurs or not. And that's when it became cool to be an entrepreneur, cool to start your own business, cool to do. It became more of a idea, like jewelry or becoming a rapper or something. That's what it became. It's like the new rapper and shit. So when I was a kid, I was just watching these shows. I thought it was dope. So I knew I wanted to be in business, but I didn't know what entrepreneurship was yet. and I didn't know about being an owner or ownership. I didn't learn about that. So I just would Google on the internet, hey, how to have a corner office. Literally, that's what I would Google. And it would say you have to be in finance, or you have to be an accountant, or you have to be a CEO. And that's when I learned the word CEO. So I'm like, cool, CEO. So I would Google that, how to become a CEO and live and work in a high rise. And it'll be like, go to school for this, go to school for finances, get a business degree, whatever. So I was like, alright, that's what I'm gonna do. Like from like 10 to like 14. But like when I was 14, that's when Instagram came out. Social media started really popping, like for real. Facebook was popping, yeah, growing from 07 to like 14, but all that shit started really popping. And Facebook's never been one for like an entrepreneurship space or business space, like in terms of like promoting it or saying this is cool or posting pictures. So it's always been Instagram and Twitter, in my opinion, and like maybe a few other social media websites where you follow entrepreneurs. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna follow these people on Facebook because you gotta add them as friends. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So either way, internet came out. Like I said, I was reading books from Eric Thomas, watching his motivational videos. He was starting to talk about how he was travel speaking and he owns his own business and he's this and he makes this money, and he went from high school dropout to living as a homeless man to a million, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, what? That's gangster. Blah, blah, blah. How'd you do that? Who do you work for? Oh, you work for yourself? What does that even mean? Mm-hmm. Then Gary Vee came back around. I started seeing Gary Vee's content probably about 2012, probably about then, so like 15, 16. And all Gary Vee talks about business, entrepreneurship, blah, 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 blah. I started reading his books, looking at his old videos about his wine company and everything like that. Then YouTube started to blow up with a lot of entrepreneurs posting their vlogs, posting things. So I started learning about all that, the flashy side of it, right? Gary Vee was tactical. I like Gary Vee. He was always tactical because he gave tactical information. But he had his vlogs showing his day-to-day life. And I was like, oh, that looks tiring, but it looks awesome because he really loves what he's doing. He gets to lead people, and he gets to have an impact on the world, like, you know what I'm saying, in his own way. And he can give back because he got the money to give back, you know what I'm saying, from building his own business. So that was cool. But then I just started reading more books around that time, like 15, 16, 17, 18, reading a lot of business books. Started learning about ownership, started learning about assets, started learning about building businesses, started learning about being a business owner, being an investor, being an employee, and the differences between all these. The differences between a CEO and an owner who's not the CEO, like an owner or like a board member. It's a difference. CEO is still an employee, mm-hmm. working for the company. He might get paid a lot, but all the responsibility come back to him. Back to you being the owner of the company, you can hire a CEO. It's like, but how do you get there from the bottom to that moment? So just started learning about all that. And then I really knew I wanted to do it because I know I ain't trying to work for nobody. I mean, and I work for somebody right now. But I was like, I ain't trying to work for nobody. I want to make my own money. I see the benefits that there's no cap on your income if you have your own business and you build it. Start learning about the tax advantages of it. Start learning about how things are built to support business owners in America. Like America's like has more just benefits for business owners just because they're the ones who provide employment. And so it's just like, I was like, everything I want to do, I want to be, only can happen if I own a business or if I invest early and just become an investor in these businesses. So that's pretty much the main reasons. And then from there I just started actually finding it fun, like a sport, you know. So
like a sport.
Yeah. So that would be my perspective. I mean, like, the motivation is to have ownership, to have something to pass down and have access to making as much money as I want and give back as much as I want to, you know. Take it how you want it. Call me a capitalist, call me like something for wanting to be rich, but I want to be rich, man. So like that, I felt like the best way to do that is to own your business. And then after that, once I realized that and started studying business, then I was like, oh, this shit is like a sport. This is fun. Hard, but fun. So that was my motivations for sure.
Hard but fun. I would agree with that.
Shit. But definitely hard.
Definitely hard.
Let's go ahead and put that out there.
Hard before it gets fun.
Yeah, believe that. And it might be 10 years, 20 years, so you gotta be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to get down and dirty.
Shit tiring.
Oh yeah, no doubt. So, what are some of the most overrated things? There's a lot of hype, especially on Instagram, especially on YouTube. We've all seen the ads with the dude with the Ferrari trying to sell you his book or his course or whatever. So what are some of the most overrated things when it comes to the entrepreneurial space? And what are some of those things that are like right now? Like what is happening right now that you think is super overrated?
That's a great question. I'm gonna think for a second. What's an overrated thing? I think what I just said, like people, I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly, but I think people think about so much about, they get so lost in the sauce of like, I'm gonna own this business, I'm gonna become a millionaire, until they start building their business and they realize that they can't pay themselves. And if they pay themselves, their business gonna fail fast. So it's like, I think the overrated thing is that what's put out there about entrepreneurship is, I started this company, now I live in a mansion, now I have a Ferrari, now I pay for my parents to go on 10-year vacations and shit, literally saying shit, right? So what people think is, okay, I start a business, as soon as I start a business and if I sell some stuff, sell enough stuff, even sell a lot of stuff, then I'm gonna be able to do all this. But it's like, hold up, brother. In order to sell a lot of stuff, you gotta put some money into that motherfucker. And then once you start selling a lot of stuff, in order to sustain it, you gotta put some money in that motherfucker. And if you using all the money that you make, you ain't gonna have no money to put into it. So then, into your business. So then you just never gonna get where you wanna go. So you gotta understand that that money is not yours for the keeping at the beginning. It's really not yours for the keeping really for a long time. You just gonna have to keep putting money back into the business. So until that, like obviously until it's like 30 million or a certain amount, you gotta know your costs and everything. But until you make a decent amount to where you can do your marketing, put money aside for taxes, put some money aside for innovation, put money aside for PR, put money aside for, these are not all necessary, but most of them are necessary. Put money aside for all these things, put money aside for shipping, put money aside for inventory, put money aside for keeping your website alive, keeping your website up, your monthly subscription to your website. Put money aside for photography of your, I'm just speaking about me for like the t-shirts and shit like that, but then you're like, oh, this takes a lot of money. So what makes you money gonna take money, and the goal is to get out of that. But that's getting into the weeds from there, getting out the rat race.
Get out the rat race, yeah.
Because you can still be an entrepreneur in the rat race, just so y'all know.
It is possible. And sometimes it's to your advantage, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess on the flip side of that, what are some things that are underrated?
Shoot. Oh, I have a better answer to overrated. You know what's overrated? What's overrated is scheduling your own hours. Like, I get to, that saying, I get to create my own hours. That shit is overrated, brother. Let me tell you something. Wait till you build a business. First off, I'm talking like I got some big business. I don't, but I got things I'm working on or whatever, and I've had moments where I've tried to build a business and not work a job. You got a job, right? You wake up at 8:30, you get to work at 9, you get off at 5. 5 days a week, guaranteed pay. Guaranteed. You start a business, you're gonna wake up, hopefully, when you need to wake up, but let me just say about some friends I know. They wake up 6 a.m. They start their day. They have their first meeting call by 8, so their first 2 hours they might spend doing their own thing or whatever, but most of the time, just being business owners. He woke up this morning, first thing he did is come downstairs and start working on a pitch deck. So other entrepreneurs that have bigger businesses that they're running, they're probably, a lot of them might talk about on the internet, I wake up, I meditate, I go work out, and you should do that. That's a great, if you can do that, amazing. But I bet you a lot of them are waking up and they're going right to their computer, they're looking at their emails, they're remembering to have a pitch deck, they're scheduling out their day, then 8 a.m. is their first call or whatever, then they gotta go up to their co-working space, and then they start working on their business, then they have more calls, then they have some actual work they got to go do, look at a property, look at this, blah, blah, blah. By the time their whole day's over, they might have ate one time because they were so busy back to back trying to figure things out. They were stressed because they was losing money, don't know when money's going to come in. They were trying to figure out how they're going to feed their kid at home or how they're going to pay their rent because their business hasn't blown yet. And then they're going to get home at night and they're going to be like, well, I can't rest now because they're trying to get this money and they got people to take care of and they want their business to grow. So they're going to work until 1 a.m. Either studying or actually working on actionable things towards their business. Does that really sound that great? Like, just be honest. Yes, working on your own thing is amazing if that's the type of person you are. So for me and for you, we're like, we love this shit. Like, it fucking sucks some days, but we're also like, we might be tired and shit like that. But then you also be like, I love it though. I'm doing it for a reason. You know, I got purpose behind it. This is what I'm drawn to. But for a lot of people, that hype on the internet, becoming a millionaire and all that, brother, go work your 9 to 5. Come home, get your paycheck, guaranteed, pay your bills, get your benefits. That's not bad, man. None of that shit is bad. It's totally okay. So I think that's what's overrated. It's like, just that be your own boss is nice in terms of nobody's yelling at you, but also sucks because you got to really keep yourself accountable and it takes a lot more work than a 9 to 5, in my opinion.
Yeah, 9 to 5 is, there's a lot of value there.
There's a lot of value there. And if you're working like a high stress job like a doctor or a lawyer, that might be a little different. It might be a lot of work and work outside of a 9 to 5. Like you got to work 12 hours and stuff like that and you're really busy. But I'm telling you, being able to know you about to get that money and you know what days you work and you know your exact schedule and you can plan your life around that, for most people is going to feel a lot better than just being all over the place all day, 7 days a week trying to build your business. So,
it definitely feels better.
Yeah.
Knowing that those checks are coming through.
Hell yeah.
Knowing what your responsibilities are, not having to.
Knowing you're off at this time, knowing you ain't gotta do shit after this time. Like you can go home, literally sit on your couch and just chill with your family, have family time. You can eat, you can go out to eat and go to the bar. You just know you can. You can't do that shit when you're trying to build a business, man. In my opinion, you just can't. You're wasting too much time. Like you can't just be lollygagging for 12 hours of the day and decide to work on your business for 3 hours and call yourself an entrepreneur. Or expect to become a successful entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of leverage there in that 9 to 5 though.
Absolutely. That's the only reason why I went back to work. Like right now, I went back to work right now. The goal is to really learn the skill, really do a good job at this job, really work myself up the next few years. But when I come home, I have time scheduled out to work on my business, to work on my podcast, to work on the t-shirts. On the times that I have days off or whatever, I'm trying to figure out how I can better improve the brand or the Culture Talks t-shirts, writing up game plans, writing up pitch decks, talking with friends about how can I improve. But I know I'm getting a check. I know that I can get these benefits and I don't have to stress about that part of things, you know what I'm saying? And when the reduced stress, more success.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Especially stress around money.
Stress around money is the worst.
Crazy. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to know that I'm sleepy. And I hope you guys have been enjoying this podcast. You know we keep it 100 on this podcast, man. You know, every day, every time, every moment, all 78 episodes, I always keep it a buck. I'm always gonna talk how I talk. I'm gonna move how I move. We're gonna let water be spilt on the table. We're gonna cough. We're gonna have my niece come on the show and be sneezing or whatever. We're gonna keep it 100% authentic. And you know, to some people, you may call it unprofessional. To me, I think it really makes this podcast. The Culture Talks. Life is happening all around us. No matter if there's an episode going on or if we're trying to build a business, life is happening all around us. It's not about being perfect and fancy and all this. So, you know, I really just appreciate anybody who tunes into the episodes, anybody who, you know, listens and enjoys the content, anybody who gives us a minute of their time for a minute Instagram video. I really just appreciate all of y'all because I know that I'm different. But if you have any further things to share with the audience, you know, either any final questions or if not, your social media, where they can find you, talk a little bit about your business before we hop off of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a digital marketer here in Kansas City.
Let them know. Stare them down in the camera.
I'm a digital marketer here in Kansas City. We help small businesses, you know, pretty much do the lead generation online, build authority in whatever industry you are, and build trust with your customers and educate them before they come to buy from you. So you make that sales process so much easier and cut that sales time into fractions. So that's what we do. We do that through social media, paid advertising, SEO, content, email marketing, all of those things. It's really kind of a plug and play solution. The Market Base, themarketbase.com. You can look us up. We won some awards this year. We're pretty happy about getting that recognition. So, but today it has been a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure talking to you, and really learning a little bit more about you and how you think and your business mindset. I think that's some things that we don't really get to hear from you as the host of the podcast. So it's really nice to see some of those insights and how you kind of conduct yourself and how you move. So always appreciate it. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in, and I'm glad I could be today's host. And thank you so much to our lovely guest today, CIZZY.
But nah, man, I appreciate you for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to first off follow
me on
Instagram, Twitter.
Whatever, yeah.
What's your at on Instagram?
I have not a clue.
I love it. Do you know does Market Base have a website or somewhere they can?
Themarketbase.com. You can follow us on Twitter at themarketbase. We're on Instagram as themarketbase. We're on Facebook as The Market Base.
The Market Base. It sounds how it's spelled. So go follow my boy, show him some love. You already know, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review, and share with a friend if you found this episode either enjoyable, entertaining, or informational. The Culture Talks Podcast, the host, CIZZY, the co-host today, Milad, we out. Salute. Appreciate you. Did you see that moment where
Yeah, what happened?
So what happened was is my dumbass forgot that I was using. You had too much data. It cut short. Yeah, it's okay. At the end of the day, we'll be all right because I'm sure this shit picked it up, and we'll just use that audio at the end of the day. So we'll be all right.
What happened?
Can you stop the video though?
Oh yeah.
Just press that same button.
The
The record.
Oh.